All right, welcome back. We have another pen in front of you, and this one is just going to be a pen I just want to clean up and get looking nice, and just kind of see if anybody has any information on it, because I cannot find much about this at all. And I'll tell you, I guess I'll tell you up front that what really got me interested in this pen is it appears to be a Mabie Todd. It's got a Mabie Todd nib on it. Is it a Swan or Mabie Todd? It just says, yeah, Mabie Todd and Company. So it says that. So I expected to see a little bit more identifiers on it. So I thought, okay, maybe I'd see the Swan on it somewhere. I don't see that anywhere. But it has a few other features that I kind of associate with Mabie Todd. This kind of slender cap ring and this much wider kind of cap lip. I've seen that on some older Mabie Todds. This kind of stepped out clip, though not specific to them. I know that they use that kind of clip in many pens, and I'll see if I can pull out some of my other Mabie Todds to kind of compare at the end. And of course, this very slender lever also screams Mabie Todd to me. And so when I tried to see if there's maybe something written on the barrel, it looks like either somebody really hated the imprint or just did not want to associate with something anymore, because right here, and you're not going to see it, so I'll not belabor it too much, but along here, oops, there it is. It's all scraped and scratched up, so that, like, I could not. It took me a long time to try to figure out. I mean, I could see a little bit of stuff. Like, it had this very stylized print, and at the tail end, I could make out COME, maybe PEN is still visible, so maybe an L. So I got welcome, and I started like Googling Mabie Todd and something welcome, and I found a couple images, and what this wound up being is Burrows Welcome Pen. Didn't know what that meant, and I've still got some work to try to do some digging to figure it out, but I'm really going to do this pen because, one, I like Mabie Todd. Swans and Mabie Todds are one of my just fountain pen companies that are just a little near and dear to my heart, because I think the first pen I had was a Mabie Todd, like a rebrand that Fountain Pen Hospital did, but that got me into Mabie Todds. So I really just liked the pen company. And maybe I just want to see if somebody can kind of give me information on this. Maybe we can enrich the literature about this Burrows pen. I've tracked a couple leads, and I think I may have something I want to say at the tail end once it's all finished, but I'll wait until I really have either exhausted the resources or have confirmed or denied what I think it might be going on. But let's just go ahead and get this one taken apart, cleaned up, and what I'm going to wind up doing is I'm going to preserve the mess that's here, so I will cover this with tape because it does have somewhat of the imprint on it, and I'll just clean up the rest of it, and we'll just have a nice shined up kind of military-ish looking pen, even though it probably is not green and black. It's probably like pearl and black. That those pearl colors tend to just yellow and become this over time. But anyway, let's take it apart. And we have nib feed section, and it just kind of friction fit and rotates out nice and slowly. There we go. And this I kind of pre-did, so the sack already comes off nicely, but it's actually a newer sack. I might actually reuse this because it's got a lot of sponge to it, and I don't know if maybe somebody refitted this pen and sold it. I forget how I got it. Not terribly cleaned up because there's still some kind of crud here, but maybe they resacked it and just passed it on. So I think this is a newer sack. I'll probably wind up keeping it and reusing it for this guy. And that's basically it. We're pretty much done. I'll dig down in here to see what this pressure bar looks like. It might just be a cheap J bar. Maybe Todd's kind of did that a lot, but we'll see. And here, of course, is the nib and feed. We'll knock it out. Let's go. That one's decent. Is that too narrow? Ooh, I don't like that. I'll take my little small knockout rod and get away from the camera. dried ink dust. And so we have smallish nib, and I don't see any cracks or breaks anywhere, so that's good. We have kind of a classic, Marie Todd also uses this kind of step ladder feed, which is kind of classic for them, kind of slender, and then the ladder along the side. So again, another hallmark that I kind of find consistent with Marie Todd's in general and our section. And do I have, maybe I can just angle it at my light real quick, see if there's a J-bar or what this guy is, because it doesn't feel like it's an integrated. There you go, so I got it, and I'm just kind of wiggling it out. And come on. I can probably just grab it now, but there we go. Let's see, a little compound J-bar. I do like these better because you press and it'll do a little bit more than just the tip. So I like these. Hopefully that's got some life left in it. I'll just kind of clean it up with my Dremel tool, wire brush, maybe a little sandpaper, and hopefully just be gentle enough that will keep this guy. But that is it. We will come back once I have this guy cleaned up, and we'll restock it, get it going. But like I say, I'm going to, there's nothing on the top that I can see. There's no swan, there's no imprint, there's no model number. So I'll be, using my micro mesh and my polishes on the cap. I will cover the imprint, save what I can, and then just be aggressive on the body, just kind of clean it up with my micro mesh and polishes, and Dremel tool that guy, a little polish here. And I think I said on another video, these will just be the polishes because this is the feed that I want to get micro mesh scratches on, and then just not be able to get them out because it is kind of hard just doing that curved surface, and it does have a little bit of that stepped, kind of has some edges to it, so I don't want to dull those. And we'll see how this nib cleans up. I can kind of see that it says MT & Company 14 carats number 2, so there's a number 2 nib. And we'll come back with it cleaned up, and we'll eventually get to some writing, and I'll tell you what I think I know about what this Burrows Welcome Pen is. See you in a bit. Alright, let's get them back together. So as you can see, shined up quite nicely, and I'll just kind of show it quickly here before we do the final going over the pen when it's ready to write. But as you can see, it looks pretty good. And what else we got? Shiny nib. And I don't think I showed that well enough earlier, so we'll get another look at that. And here's the section, just kind of nice and shiny. And the pressure bar came out a little bit better. It's not perfect, but I think it's a little bit more serviceable than it was. So let's go ahead and get everything back in. And since we've got the pressure bar, let's go ahead and see if we can get that guy back in. And to do that, I have my little alligator forceps, which grab it at the front, do my best to line it up. Actually, this will be a little more gentle. Let's just kind of squeeze it a little bit and introduce it first. There we go. That was a kinder, gentler way to do it. And we'll push them all the way back, keep them lined up with the alligator forceps. Oh, there we go. All the way to the back. Let's just kind of see, and I'll double check with my, well, can I see with a little bit of lead I have? Yeah, that looks like right in the middle, so it's depressing well, and I can see it push the top of that J-bar down, so I guess take my word for that. Let's go ahead and do the nib and feed. Let's get it pretty close to the tip. And as you can see, there's not going to be a lot of overlap between that, so I'm going to actually sink it down a little bit more, close to where that almost is getting to that kind of nipple part. So it's going to be a little more sunk than you think. So let's go at least up to the first or second rung of that ladder. So there you go, pretty decently deep. And let's kind of see a little pressure on the tip. Doesn't seem to be lifting up. So I think that's going to be nice. And I can still see, and I'll show you again in the next clip, I can still see the Marie Todd. I can see 14 karat, and I think I can see the number, maybe a 2 or a 3. So that's kind of sunk down beneath the edge of the section, but I think that's kind of going to have to be how it is for this particular feed and nib. So let's call that done. We'll go ahead and say, I am going to use this sack. This is the one that came with it, and it's super pliable. It feels fresh. It feels soft. So I think somebody restored the pen by really just swapping out the ink sac and calling it a day. You know, they didn't bother with the polishing. They didn't really do much other than I guess restore, and this part that I'm doing is more the refinishing part. I guess we can get into some words and nomenclature about what it is we do when we kind of fix these pens. Are we servicing it? Are we restoring it? Are we refinishing it? Like, lots of different words you can apply. And I've seen some people do very minimal, just like really, like it really is just, I'm just going to restore the pen to writing, and that is good enough for them. Typically not for me, because I want them to look good and you know, want to be taken out and written with. I want to feel good about having them. So to me, I think I'm a restore, maybe refinisher. Refurbish might be a decent word, not entirely sure. But yeah, if you have any thoughts of your own, go ahead and just comment, because I'm not a professional by any means, and I don't know if that means that I couldn't call myself something if I don't have X number of tools, certain abilities with certain pens, you know. Don't know. I'm just putting a little bit extra around where the sack meets the nipple. Just kind of get a little bit more in there. Just kind of feels, for some odd reason, I don't know, it's not exactly a short nipple, but for some reason I just felt a little compelled to do a little bit extra for this one. And we'll get the talc. And I just kind of push it up. And get a little bit off the end, but that's a little over talc. Wow. Usually I don't quite put that much on, but this one held on to it. Okay, and let's line this guy up. Like I say, I have said in the past, I like to put the top of the nib to line it up with the lever. It just kind of gives it a nice aesthetic that I like. You know what you're dipping, where you're dipping it, and I don't know, it's more of just my own personal preference. Slowly walk this guy down. There we go. And he looks pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit of spread in this lever box, so it's not going to be, you know, spot on, but choose your alignment, and I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and cap him, and I'll let that shellac dry, and we'll come back, we'll do a little talking, and I'll show you what I've come up with this guy, which is not much, but I feel decent saying it is a Swan Marie Todd Nibicide made for this one specific dealer, maybe. But anyway, we'll talk about it. We'll get in some vagaries of it. So I'll let that dry, and I will see you in a little bit. All right, here we are, ready to show the pen off. And let's go ahead and give it a twirl, talk about a few things, and just have a few asides before we get down to the writing samples. So let me just kind of show, you know, how well it polished up. We have a nice flat top, flat bottom surfaces. We have an overall pretty well shined up pen. There's a few little places where there's some deeper scratches. Like, you know, this was a well loved or well used or well abused pen. I don't really know how to say it, but it stood up. It's been pretty good, and it made it all the way to me after what, like 90-ish years, almost 100, something like that. So let's go ahead and show some things that I'll have an aside about in a second. So we have this nice bolted in clip that shined up really well. It's decently stiff. We have a rather kind of a slender cap band with a nice fat cap lip, which is nicely intact. I don't feel any cracks in it. We have, and this is, you might see a little bit of ink residue because I already have this in some ink today. This nice nib, and I'll zoom in and see if you can see the glare. It is, there we go. It says M&T or MTN Company 14CT. And is there anything below that? Maybe something just before the just below the 14, but it's in the section and I can't really read it either. But it is a nice Marie Todd nib, and it is going to have some decent flexibility, or at least some springiness that you'll see. And we have our usual section, nicely flared out. I like that design where it keeps you into the section. And the only other thing we have, because there's no other imprints other than our mutilated thing that we'll show in a second, a nice long slender lever. And the gold fill seems pretty intact on it, so I'm very happy about the gold trim on this thing overall. So let's go ahead. I do want to make one comment. This, I think, you could call it a camouflage pen. Camouflage, but what I think this was is a nice black and cream, just kind of like the Schaeffers of the time. So I'm going to place this in the 1930s-ish as black and cream, because you kind of get these little greenish colors, brownish tan colors, maybe a little bit yellow, kind of a little lighter in these yellow browny areas. And so on the whole, modernly it looks like camo, but I think this is actually a black and cream. And I don't know that I've ever had a nice solid cream one in my hand that's persisted to this day. I'll pull out this one from the side. This is like a Parker dual fold streamline. It's kind of got that cream, maybe ivory pearl. I kind of forgot what they called it, but that's what these things do over time. You kind of just get this brownish yellow color. So this is probably closer to what it probably would have been like, is in my humble opinion. I don't think I have anything Schaeffer-ish, although maybe, and you can see the Schaeffer that kind of does the same thing, that I think that's closer to what you would have had, but then it becomes this kind of brown green color. So that's what I think these types of pens generally are. There we go. And yeah, so that's my color take on it. Let me go ahead and I'll talk about this imprint for a second. And you're going to see some white in it. And what I did was I took a China marker, and I'll show that in a second. But if you look and you squint, that's about the best you can see, the P-E-N, pen. And that's the kind of funky, I don't even know what to call it in terms of font, but just kind of almost like a tiki, islandy, kind of goofy font. And that's, once I saw that, I was like, oh, that's what P-E-N, and I could squint through the loop, and you probably aren't going to see it, but I'll put a photo in of what it actually looks like. Burrows Welcome Pen. And rather than belabor it and give you a headache, I'll go ahead and take this away. But we'll talk about the Burrows Welcome in a second. And just for you guys wondering what a China marking pen is, this is a little something I got on eBay. This is kind of what they generally look like. It's kind of a waxy tip, and you have this paper that you can peel off. There's a nice little string to help you kind of, as you wear the tip, you pull it down, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. And this one is Asian made, not sure exactly where, and dermatograph, which is a nice for skin writing, which is interesting. But you can find these pretty cheaply on Amazon, and that's a great way to kind of fill in an imprint, wipe off the excess, and wherever it's depressed into the imprint, you'll kind of show it off. So for yourself, for eBay, for anything where you want to show it, these are decent. And I actually finally picked it up because somebody left a comment, when I kept like bemoaning how much I had to like show things. They said, what, go ahead and just get one of that, one of those, it'll show it better. And I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about this for years. I should just go ahead and do it. So here we are. And the last little digression I want to make is So it has a Mabie Todd nib. So what? Maybe that's a random nib. But like I said before, there are features of this pen that make me kind of like say, yeah, this probably is a Mabie Todd made pen. And it's really just got to do with like certain little features like that clip to me screams Mabie Todd, thin cap band, and a thick kind of long cap lip, and especially this little long slender lever. To me, all screams Mabie Todd. And I pulled a few of my, just a couple of some of my Mabie Todds, and here's one that, yeah, if we just look at the clips just quickly, see if we line them up. I mean, this one's much more generic. It doesn't have any frills to it, but you see they all kind of start with the ball, start narrow, and then they flare out near the top. They're all kind of just that kind of bent over, crimped in to the cap itself. And the only thing that's really different is this is smooth. This doesn't have a fine ridge in the middle, whereas these, and I think all the other ones I have a little bit of a ridge, and they have a little thicker part up here where the swan is kind of stamped into it. But you know, I mean, you could make it, you know, generic, like everybody can make a clip like that. But I think in general, this kind of reminds me of a Mabie Todd. And then we can go to kind of not so much the cap band as the cap lip. Both of these, I think in general, compared to other pen brands, have a longer cap lip. From the bottom to the end, they're about the same-ish. This is slightly longer, but I think Mabie Todd was willing to give you more of a cap lip. And this one has a slenderness of it. And there's a couple others I've seen. I don't know if I just don't have them anymore. But the distinct cap lip to me is a feature that you're going to find on Mabie Todd's. And then last, of course, is the lever, which I think these are pretty distinct actually. That's how long and slender and tipped at the end with just like a little around something just to kind of get your fingernail under. That's what these all seem to have. And all the lever fillers that I have of Mabie Todd, all are just like that. And this one's even more slender, even a little more specific to it. So these are all the things that kind of make me say, yeah, I not only buy that this has a Mabie Todd nib, but it also has other features that back up what I'm about to say in terms of the heritage of this pen. So let's go ahead and pull out the pad, fill it up, and I'll show you a few brief notes, and then we'll just kind of critique the writing of it. So I think that made plenty of bubbles. I hope you heard that. There we go. Wipe everything off. And let me just move a few things, grab my notes. And so what we have in the imprint of this thing, I'll go ahead and write that. Burrows Welcome Pen. And I don't think there's an apostrophe. I think it's just Burrows Welcome Pen. There's two thoughts, because there's not a lot online about these things. So there's two thoughts, and one of them seems almost spot on, but a little bit off. And then there's the one I think is actually a little bit more likely. And let's start with the one that actually there is a not company, but a foundation that is actually called. Let me see if I spell it right. Burrows, 2 L's, Burrows Welcome Foundation. I think it's a foundation. It's some UK-based pharmaceutical company or something up in that kind of Scandinavia, UK kind of area. Burrows Welcome, that I think is no longer in business, but it has a foundation where they kind of do scientific research and endow things, I think. But that's it. I mean, it's easy and tempting to want to say, yeah, Burrows Welcome Pen. Maybe it was some in-house thing that they just decided to spell things differently to be able to give monogrammed pens to some employees or people. So that's kind of tempting. But then somebody in one forum also pointed out, and kind of has some credibility to it, but in Cleveland, Ohio, there was, maybe there's apostrophe, maybe not, I don't know what I wrote down, but there is a Burrows Brothers stationery and bookstore. Yeah, and this one I kind of like, maybe because I've got some recent recall bias and just some bias because I did the Repsol pen and just the Soweco pen. But this is a company founded in about 1873, and it's not worth going through all the little things, but it passed hands so many times up through the next 100 years or so. Always kind of maintained the Burrows name, and I think in at least the Cleveland area, it said all the stores that had Burrows were gone. So at least a good 100+ year company that probably in its heyday, 1920s to 1930s, kind of probably pre-World War II, was expanding to pens, papers, and not just like the little lending library that it was, or having a little book imprints that it had in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it kind of makes sense that a stationery store, just like the Soweco, just like any of the department stores, would have something made by a decent, and I'd say Marie Todd is decent, fountain pen company that lacks most of its branding. You're going to get a good nib, and that's going to have the Marie Todd nib, but to differentiate it and put it in your store as advertising would have Burrows Welcome. So to me, this feels a little bit more likely, and maybe it's also playing on my preference for like little regional pens or personal imprints of companies or brands or something like that. And also, I've lived in Cleveland, Ohio, so has a little place in my heart for me. But this is the one I'm going to lean to. And do I have anything else to say about it? Yeah, there's not a lot out there. These are just like 2 of the 5 pages that I can ever find about the Burrows Welcome. But if I get this posted in time, I think if you look on eBay, there's currently an auction that has a few pens. It's just kind of selling a lot of kind of junk pens or cheap pens that you'll see. A Parker 51 that's definitely for parts. It's kind of junked up. There's an Eversharp. I think it was a desk pen, but you're going to see it's a combo. The one that I'm going to point you to is a combination, fountain pen, pencil, which is fun in its own right. It's a Burrows Welcome. And also, I think this is going to back up my thought here, that on the clip, it has Sparrow. So it's like the little junior line of Marie Todd, not a swan, but you get a sparrow. And I don't think it had a picture of the nib, but if this comes out and it's still up, you can get one of these things. And I don't think I'm going to go chase it just because I don't want extra nonsense stuff that I don't want just to get this little guy. But if you want to collect it, if you want a Burrows Welcome with a very good imprint, I'm actually try to use that photo if I can, versus another one to actually show you the name of it. It's out there. So let's go ahead and get on with everything, and let's critique just kind of what you've been seeing, what I've been feeling, maybe even what you've been hearing. But overall, I think this is a pretty smooth pen. I'll zoom in a little bit. You may be hearing it. There is a little bit of feedback. It has that kind of, I'm going to say, pen on paper feedback that's kind of nice and pleasant. It doesn't feel scratchy. I hope it doesn't sound that way. But to me, this just has that kind of nice, I'm writing on paper and I'm moving along quite nicely kind of sound and feel to it. So I like it so far. It's pretty bouncy. I'm going to go ahead and say at times it's like if you literally put no pressure on it, it's fine. But if you put any kind of writing pressure, it's kind of this fine medium territory. I think it just kind of bounces enough that you're going to get some medium lines. And one way, I know I've been writing it more often. I mean, it's clear my name is Steven, but I saw a YouTube video one time that when you're going to try a pen, when you must see how it feels, see how it writes, write something that you know. If it's a little poem, if it's a little line, if it's something that you write all the time, that's going to give you the best indication of what it is. So don't be afraid. Go ahead and write what you know, which is often going to be your name, because that's going to give you an honest use of the pen. You're not going to be hesitant. You're just going to be writing something you know so well. All the lines are going to come out the way that you're going to make your lines, right? And that's just me kind of normal fast speed. And you can already tell that a little thicker on certain strokes, it gets thinner in certain areas. So you're going to see the character of this nib come out. And you can even, there we go, slow down a little bit to kind of see how you would accentuate things. And I'm not trying to be a calligrapher right now. I'm just kind of see like what I would do if I could like push down and do certain things. But yeah, write your name. It's never going to do you wrong. So you can probably see that this is going to be, it feels like a wetter pen. Not so much. I mean, decently wet. I'd say it's moderately wet. Didn't streak out as much as I thought, but it's a wettish pen. In terms of flexibility, let's go ahead and do that test. So no pressure, weight of the pen, and then some increasing pressure. And I'm kind of moderate. By here I'm moderate, and now I'm going to really kind of, put some pressure into it. And it gave me a nice fat chunky line, and I'm not going to push it any more than that. And it comes and picks right back up. So very cool. Mabie Todd, those nibs, I love those vintage Mabie Todd nibs. I think between them and maybe some vintage Eversharp and the Waterman, I put Waterman, kind of Mabie Todd, these classic flexi ones, kind of like right there with each other. Waterman might win out a little bit, but I love vintage Mabie Todd nibs. What else do I got? Let's do the see if it'll keep up test. That's got a name. I forget what it's called, but here we go. Go side to side. It's doing all right. It's doing okay. I think maybe I lost a little bit if I put too much pressure, but I'd say, yeah, it's keeping up, and I could probably write with this fairly easily. And let's do the reverse writing. Ooh, got one little dig. And maybe I could look in the loop and kind of smooth or realign any one little thing. But that's actually really nice. Yeah, there's something right when I kind of do that, come back with the G, do that little looping. So there's probably a little edge that's still there. But without that edge, that is really nice. And it's quite a difference between that and the kind of bouncy fine medium of the regular writing. So that's actually pretty good. But again, I don't know that I've ever really had to do that. But I see people do it, so I like to do the test. What else can I say about it? I think just talk about the pen in general. I do have my ruler out to kind of get a sense of this thing. So this has been a pretty comfortable pen for me. I've got just average hands, and it kind of sits right where I like it to sit. And if we do the quick measurements, my end, yep, capped, it's going to be about 5 1/8. And if you uncap it to the tip of the nib, is about 4 5/8, a little over 4 1/2, 4 5/8. But to me, the number that makes more sense to me, because you could have a big nib, who knows, is take it to the end of the section and you have right at 4 inches. Because to me, you tell me to the section, tip of the section, that's my functional pen, right? That's where I know I'm going to write with. And it kind of sits for me, it gets past the crook of my thumb. It sits right nicely there. This is not a super thin pen. It's not like a Papermate. It's not like a super chunky pen. So it's going to probably fit most people pretty well. And I think this pen posts. It does. Fairly deeply, definitely secure. So it posts fairly deeply. It's going to stay on, and it definitely puts it back a little bit further, you know, past the crook, and it's adding weight, but it doesn't really feel back heavy. I mean, it's got a little bit of the clip there. The celluloid is light, so it puts some weight on the pen, but it doesn't really make it back heavy. And if you want to see just how much it takes it, which is just for kicks and giggles, let's go to the section. It now kicks it out to just shy of 5.5, so it gives you a good 1.5 inches of extra length on it. And to the tip of the nib, let's go ahead and just say it is just over 6 inches, so it definitely kicks that out. But again, that's definitely a sizable pen that you don't need to post if you don't have to. So I think very functional. I think this little pen, probably from the 1930s, has weathered the storm pretty well. Its thin cap lip, surprisingly, has held up, so hopefully I keep it that way. And I would use this one. I would use this one as a fun little daily writer, because that is a really fun Mabie Todd nib. And what else? So I never showed the feed. Was also kind of a Mabie Todd. They do like to use that stepladder feed, so that's another Mabie Todd characteristic, but not specific. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid workhorse pen. It still has good threading. The cap is on there nicely, and I don't think I'd be afraid to use it. And I think I'm going to keep this one because I do like my regional pens. I like the Mabie Todd nib. I like that possible connection to Cleveland, a place that I lived. So to me, this is a keeper. And if you come upon one of these in the wild, fix it up. See what it does. Kind of give it new life, and keep the little brand running if you can. And post pictures. Definitely post pictures. But yeah, I'm going to say good pen overall. Solid. Well-designed classic pen that will serve you well, and I will leave it at that. So let's see if I can kind of give a tease about what I might do next. I kind of cleaned off my desk surface, put a bunch of pens into the drawer that's in front of me, and I'm going to just kind of reach in blindly, a little bit rougher, and pick something. Okay. We're going to stick with the no-name pens, apparently. Not no-name, but looks like this is a nice little Majestic pen. This is a second, third tier pen. Sometimes they have gold nibs, sometimes they don't. Kind of look cutesy Art Deco. I kind of like the stripe pattern. Reminds me of the Conklin Glider in a way. And this one looks like it has a gold nib. So we'll just kind of see how this little guy, who looks actually pretty good already, what they really need, and we'll do a little bit of writing. We'll just talk about Majestic, probably a brand we don't hear about too much. So with that, I'll put these in the screen, and I'll say see you next time.